Hey guys, how are you doing? My name is Catherine Shelton and I wanted to make a video to talk about a concept I've been working on called triggered. And it really is based on the work of a guy called Charles DuHigg and his book, The Power of Habit. And this is why I think triggered is really, really cool. It does two things. First of all, it's all about building good habits that will help you achieve whatever goals you want to achieve. And I think this is really valuable, especially in the new year. Like everyone's creating New Year resolutions. I want to lose weight. I want to go to the gym. And we know that often when you set a New Year's resolution, it lasts for maybe until the first week of February and then it starts slipping. And this really gave me a revelation, like reading this, a revelation rather. This gave me a revelation when I read this. Because I understood a little bit more about how good habits are formed and how to kick bad habits. And good and bad are sort of relative, like we all have our own sense of what's a good habit, like losing weight, stopping smoking maybe, learning a new language, learning a new skill, all of those probably good habits, and also a lot of bad habits, like eating too many cookies, which is the problem that I have. Oh, and the second part of this, and this is the clever part, and I think, guys, stick with me because I think you'll enjoy this, is how you can use the concept of triggers to actually sell more product to your customers, to get them more invested in your brand, and basically how you can get your customers using triggers, which I think is really, really, really powerful. So let's talk about this. So in Charles DuHigg's book, he says that all the habits you have come down to a three-part system. And that three-part system is a cue, a routine, and a reward. So think about slot machines, for example. You walk into the casino and you see all these flashing lights and you hear ching, 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 ching. That is a cue. And the cue says, put money here, like put money in the slot. So you put money in the slot. That's the routine. That's the habit. You put money in the slot and then it goes, choo. That's what slot machines do. Choo, ching, 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 ching. And hopefully you get a reward. You win money, or at least you see some pretty flashing lights, and then that's the cue to do it all over again and put more money in. I think many of us are familiar with that. Similarly, Facebook is like the master of cues. And what Facebook call it is not cues or triggers. They call them notifications. And Facebook is so powerful because it constantly sends you notifications. This person has commented on your stuff. This person liked your post. And you always want to click and say, oh, what did they like? Oh, what have they got to say to me? Cue, routine, reward. The cue is the notification. The routine is scrolling through Facebook. And the reward is seeing their comment, their cat picture, getting in an argument, like whatever it is that you look for in Facebook. And Facebook is so clever that it gets you just endlessly sort of scrolling through it. It's a very addictive process. Like Facebook is very, very addictive. And a lot of other things follow the same process, like Farmville and all these casual games. They use this sort of gamification psychology trick of cue, routine, reward. What I have done in Triggered is I've tried to hack this to do something very positive. So instead of following the cue and doing something that maybe you don't want to do, like who sets a New Year's resolution that says, I want to scroll through Facebook for 10 minutes every half hour? Like no one actually would make that resolution. Yet we do that. Why do we do that? Because we're addicted. We're doing it. We're just kind of going with our programming. So what Triggered is about is taking control of that process, like creating new cues for yourself, setting new routines, and giving yourself new rewards. So it's taking that three-part process and it's basically hacking it into something positive. So how do you do that? And I thought about this because I used to do it in several ways. And one way, and sorry guys, this might be TMI, I was in childbirth classes with my first baby. One of the things the teacher told us was when you are stopped at the first thing she said was that pelvic floor exercises are very, very important when you're pregnant. If you don't do your pelvic floor exercises, basically all your insides will fall out and it will be terrible. She didn't quite say that, but you know. So she then gave us a trick And she said, okay, ladies, this is what you need to do. When you're in traffic and you're stopped at a red light, do your pelvic floor exercises and do all the thing. And it's actually really, really clever because that's the cue and the routine. And then the reward is your insides not falling out. You're like, yay, I did my pelvic floor exercise for the day. Similarly, when I was learning salsa dancing, and I'm not very good, but it's fun anyway. And I was learning salsa dancing and I was trying to lose weight. So what I used to do was when I was cooking and on my own in the kitchen, when no one could laugh at me, I would practice my salsa turns and I'd be doing all these cool moves in the kitchen. So really I was hacking the process, the cue, the routine, the reward, and bringing it more in line with my intended goals. It wasn't sort of something that was using me or that like Facebook or notifications. It was something I was more in control of and creating good habits. And it did work. I lost weight and I got better at salsa dancing and my insides didn't fall out. Yay, result. So what I thought about this a little bit more, and my thinking is that you can do the same thing. First of all, you can do the same thing. Whatever it is that you want to do this year, think about that. Think about what your ultimate goals are this year. Do you want to lose weight? If so, what bad habits are stopping you from doing that? Like rummaging through the fridge after a meal. That's a bad habit. So what you need to do is look at what triggers that. Why do you go and rummage through the fridge? What triggers that? And the answer may be finishing your meal. So what you do is you set a new habit. So instead of going and rummaging through the fridge, you go for a walk, or you eat a peppermint, or you find some other thing to do that is rewarding, and that's a reward to yourself. And by hacking that 3-part process, the cue, the routine, the reward, you can actually create new routines and habits. So what I have done in my PDF, and I recommend that you download my PDF. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link should be there. If you're watching this on my website, the link should be there. But download my PDF because it explains this in more detail, and it also includes 80 triggers and 126 habits that you can use as a starting point. So to go a little bit more in detail about triggers, Charles DuHigg suggested that there are 5 kinds of trigger. And it makes sense, actually, when you think about it. The first is time. He said that time is a big trigger. And when I lived in England, 11s was our big thing at home. We always had 11 o'clock. It was 11s time, which means it's time for coffee, a cookie, a snack, whatever it is that you always do at 11 o'clock in the morning. And the sad thing is, if you're trying to lose weight, you might eat a cookie even if you're not even hungry, just because it's 11 o'clock. Or if you're at work, maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock, you do the same thing. Like, we're kind of triggered by time. So that's the first trigger. The second is location. Maybe going to a certain place triggers a certain routine. So for example, think about, like, if I'm driving in a certain area, I'll always hit the Starbucks there. I'll just go and buy a coffee there, because I'm triggered by my surroundings. If I go into Target, I tend to walk a certain way around the store, or I'll find myself checking out like t-shirts or something and be like, I don't even need a t-shirt. I'm just looking here out of habit. I'm just browsing around and not even sure what I'm looking for. It's a very sort of automatic Pavlovian response to being in a certain place. It may also, like if you go to someone's house, for example, you may be triggered to act in a certain way just by being in their house. If it's a very formal living room, you may act a certain way or go into, like, even regress to certain habits just by being in that place. So time, location. The third trigger is your emotional state. If you're bored, if you're hungry, if you're tired, if you're depressed, if you're and like just kind of angsty, you might act in a way that you didn't necessarily intend to act. Like, we tend to react very much to our emotional feelings. And we also get in habits, like, oh, if I'm depressed, I'm going to go and sit and eat ice cream, or I'm going to go and, like, cry to my dog, or whatever it is. By recognizing that trigger and saying, okay, when I have this emotional trigger, I act in this way, you can actually take control of that. You can sort of hijack that process and say, you know what? When someone annoys me on Facebook, I'm not going to go into keyboard warrior mode. I'm going to recognize that I'm feeling kind of angry and kind of triggered right now, and I'm going to choose a different response. Like maybe I'll go and pat my dog or go for a walk or like do something that changes my thought process and makes me feel better about being online. So I don't type something angry that I later regret and go, oh, I wish I hadn't typed that. So by recognizing the process, the trigger, the routine, by recognizing that process, you can actually take control of it and change it. And kind of related to that, the fourth trigger he suggests is other people. And he says that other people very much trigger us. And I think there's actually a lot of elements to that we can unpick. One is that other people tend to trigger emotions in us. Like we might act a certain way if we see a guy we really like or we see someone we're really into. We might get kind of embarrassed and nervous and act weird around them. If we see someone that annoys us, we might be like, ugh. If we see someone we perceive as being higher status than us, we might get nervous. So again, by recognizing those triggers and what is triggering us, we can actually kind of hijack that process and change how we respond to that situation. And you could even go as far as sort of practicing certain things that you might say or do when you're in that situation with someone that makes you feel nervous or anxious or uncomfortable or like, oh, that's an emotional reaction. I don't have a word for it. It's just a sound. The fifth, so that was other people. So we've had 4 triggers. We've had time, location, emotional state, other people. The 5th one is the action that just happened. So that's like an event. It could be that someone beeped at us. It could be that we heard a scary noise. It could be the kettle boiling. It could be brushing your teeth. And like that's the most obvious one, that when you brush your teeth, that might be a cue to floss your teeth. I don't know, if you get up in the morning, you look at your alarm clock, that might be the cue to go and get up and go to the bathroom and get breakfast. Like that whole routine is almost a chain of triggers. Like you wake up, so you look at the alarm clock, you check your messages on your phone. That might be a good habit to change, because sometimes checking your messages on your phone might not make you feel good in the morning. You might prefer to meditate or do something very peaceful. Then you get up and you go and you'll have your cup of coffee. Again, that might be a habit you want to change. I will never change that. I love coffee. But some people may say, no, I prefer to have a glass of warm water with lemon. So by recognizing this chain of events, triggers, habits, you can actually take control of that and change it. So hopefully, if you download my PDF, so I have a PDF, it's got 80 triggers and 126 habits that you might like to adopt. If you take a look at that, you might really enjoy that and find some useful things for you in the new year to help you achieve your goals. But the next step of this is that you can use triggers with your customers. So one of the things we've been doing in Cultivate is talking about creating a signature program. And a signature program is really a package of digital and physical products that could include classes, training, books, ebooks, physical products, subscription boxes, even consulting calls. It could be equipment. It could be any products to do with your brand. So for example, if you were a yoga instructor, your signature product could include yoga classes on a membership site that people pay for. It could include a monthly subscription box with yoga blocks or stretchy bands or t-shirts or whatever it is that supplements your program that month. And you can add these triggers to your signature program. So, for example, if you're a yoga teacher, one way you could implement triggers is that you could encourage, just like the childbirth teacher encouraged me and said, okay, when you're at a red light, do these exercises. Like, I will always remember her for that. Like, I will always remember that she taught me that. You could teach your customers, your students, to do something very similar. Like, okay, when you wake up, the first thing you should do is get out of bed and do a sun salute. Like, that would be a great thing for a yoga teacher to teach her students to do. If you're not a yoga teacher, you could do the same thing with like learning. Like one thing I did for my kids, I put multiplication tables on the bathroom door so that when they were doing whatever they do in the bathroom, they could actually practice their multiplication tables. So you could actually create a product for your students whatever you're teaching them, if you're teaching them like piano, you could actually create sticky sheets that give them piano scales or whatever it is that you want to teach them and have them memorize. So you can actually create products that encourage triggers. You can give them stickers or flashcards or something they can keep in their car, or like a spiral book or a visual reminder, some sort of picture or poster they can put on their office wall. Like, there's a lot of ways you can supplement your signature program with triggers. Another thing you can do, and this is super, super simple, is that you can actually give your customers a cue. You can say, okay, here's a script. Go to your Alexa device, your Siri device. I'm waiting for her to talk to me because she's right over there. I've got an Echo Dot right there. And I know when I say her name, she'll go, hello, Catherine. So give them a script to talk to their phone, like their Siri, their Echo Dot, whatever it is, and say, set up these reminders. And how cool is this? So imagine if you are teaching people a foreign language, for example, you could say, okay, set up an alarm at 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., and remind me of these words. And you could actually give your students a schedule to learn certain words and have them teach it to their smart device or to their phone, or just set up reminders on their calendar. Like, this is a really cool thing you can do. You can actually teach your students triggers and use them with your signature program. And if you take this to the next level, you can get them actually using your products in their triggers. So if your thing is essential oils or crystals or something like that, you can say, okay, it's 4 p.m., time to use this particular essential oil. This is like the cool down from work essential oil. Whoa, you can do the same thing in the morning. You can have a trigger in the morning. Like, okay, this is your schedule. At 10 a.m., you use this peppermint wake up oil. At 4 p.m., you use this relaxing chamomile cool down oil. At bedtime, at 10 p.m., you use this lavender oil. Like, you can set these schedules for your customers. So, I hope this was fun for you. I hope you've got some thoughts about triggers. I would love to hear them. If you've got any comments, please do comment. Let me know what you think about this idea of using triggers both for yourself to create good habits for yourself, but also for embedding them into your programs for your students. If you would like to learn more about signature programs, marketing, creating classes, making videos, putting them online, monetizing your expertise, becoming an authority in your niche, then you need to be in Cultivate. Come and join us. Cultivate is cool. It is my new class. It is at cultivate.catherine.com, and we walk you through the whole process. There are over 20 hours of walkthroughs by me and Isaac and a couple of guests. So join Cultivate. It's really, really cool. And you can learn more about creating your signature program and all of that good stuff. All right, guys, have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this and have a very happy new year. Bye.